Welcome back to the Midnight Kebab podcast. Brand new week, brand new topic.
Why do you sound dead, fam?
Bro, I don't know. It's just what it is. I'm tired as hell.
You got it, dude. What am I paying you for if you're not putting energy into this intro, dude?
Bro, I'm just tired. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say because like this episode is gonna be a bit more of a serious one. I hope. I think.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, we posted a video recently, our first video. So I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah, but this week it's gonna be a bit more serious. Last one was a bit more jokey.
Yeah, I would definitely if you have a short attention span, just want to laugh a little bit, I would go check that one out.
I enjoyed it, you know, someone with like a short attention span.
Yeah, but this video, like I think you were hinting at it before when we did the first take of the intro, which somehow disappeared. But like a lot of things have happened since then, and I think it's a little more serious now. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about Afghanistan. I did some deep dives. I interviewed 2 people on this, so it's the first time we're interviewing people like kind of. I don't know, like not live, let's say, because they were not in my immediate circle, so I kind of set up a whole thing. So we're gonna do an intro with Niloy. I'll roll to the 2 interviews and then a little outro, and yeah. But man, look, tell me.
Before we get into the whole thing, there might be some people that are confused because we did say that season 1 was over. I think we're just gonna keep continuing season 1 until we.
I didn't address it. I was like, yo, what should we do for this next episode? And then just kind of went with it, and you never stopped.
Remember when we said that? When we did episode 10, we're like, this is the end of the season. Expect a new season, God knows when. But then we got back into the grind all of a sudden because like you got motivated as well, somehow.
Yes, somehow.
So we're just going to continue the grind. We're just going to continue season 1. And I don't think we're going to have any new seasons, at least, I think. For the new.
I mean, I would say, dude, I don't want to start a new season until we get in this country, dude, because you're so far away. Like, I want camera for the new season, dude. I really want to do this shit.
No, even when we get into the new season, I think that we should just keep it season 1. Just in the future, you know how Fortnite had the Fortnite Part 2 or whatever, and they did it really late.
I have no idea.
Anyways,
you know how Fortnite had the MLK Day.
What?
Thing? You didn't see this shit?
No, I didn't.
So I should probably start.
Yeah, we digress. Go on. You had to ask me something. But that was the whole spiel about the season 1. We're still going to continue it.
Yeah. Now, I'll just say for anyone who just wants to hear about Afghanistan, skip the intro. There's timestamps down below. But I do really want to quickly address this in the intro, dude. There was a Fortnite did an MLK day, which was really insensitive. So you could go through like a virtual museum of like Martin Luther King and everything that he stood for and all of his speeches. But of course, it's in Fortnite. So there was all the dances and the skins still. And they got like memed in a not very nice way, let's say. It was a big failure.
Yikes.
You haven't seen that?
No, I have not.
I thought you would see this. Whatever. I mean, I saw it on the H3 podcast, and everyone knows that's Boomer Central, so I don't know how you didn't get this before me.
No, I don't watch H3, and the MLK thing, I think it got memed, but it didn't show up on my end of memes, I guess. Or like...
Yeah, I guess, yeah. You got that good algorithm, yeah?
I got the best.
Right. Anyways, bro. So so I did my part. I did the 2 interviews, and you wanted to explain give a context type of introduction type thing to the whole thing, or what?
Right. Here's the thing, right? So I myself was a bit confused when I saw that the Taliban took over Afghanistan and that the military the U.S. military basically left Afghanistan, and that's when the Taliban took over Afghanistan. That's what I heard, and I heard it was actually Yayo in the group who first sent the meme, I think.
Oh, so what you decided to do was base your research off of what Yayo tells you?
No, because like I had no idea that this was going on, because I just didn't know. So the next day, I see that a bunch of you in the group chat were talking about this, and I'm really ignorant on this topic. I'm like, I might as well do a bit of research, see where like this all started, why there are these American troops. And would you say it's fair to say that we should start all the way at the start when America first figured out oil?
Okay, sure.
All right. So I don't know when this is. I should have done a bit more research, and I should have looked at dates. but let's just say way back in the day, and maybe when you're editing this, you add a date on screen, yeah?
I mean, I know the dates, but not of the oil. I don't know where you're going with this, by the way.
No, I'm just starting all the way when America figured out that there was going to be
discovered oil.
They discovered oil, and they saw that, this is going to be the future. This is going to bring us a lot of money. And then they went ahead looking for more oil, and they found it eventually in Saudi Arabia. And at that point, the Saudi Arabian people were not a big fan of Americans, but they conjured up this deal that, yes, they're going to work together. they're gonna allow America to look through their land, through the deserts for oil, and eventually America did hit oil, and
they hit a lot of oil.
A lot of oil, actually, and
Yeah.
both of them became rich. Both parties were happy. Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, there was private contractors from America who were allowed to, let's say buy or not extract and sell the oil, and a lot of like Saudi royal families and like elite people who were part of those contracts just got free money out of it.
Yeah. So
Right.
when people say the Saudi Arabian rich oil money, the families that became rich off of the oil, well, that's where it all started, I guess.
And in a way, you could say America made them, right? Just to keep it real.
Yeah, all right.
They were
fair
involved.
enough. Yeah, we can say
They
that.
I mean, they were already incredibly rich. A lot of the royal family in Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
but
would
that
you
really like boosted them into the 21st century, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but would you say it's also fair to say that this is the first time that America came in contact with Saudi Arabia in search of oil?
I actually don't know that, but I do know that. Like, I hope this is where you're going, because I was actually surprised that you knew this part. I thought you were gonna like completely mess up and talk about something that had nothing to do with Afghanistan. But
No, I got my facts. I got my facts.
I hope you're going in this direction. But what came with a lot of the American contractors is like just American influence in general. You know, like American people, American culture, American media,
Yeah,
and it started like rubbing off.
and this became a huge problem for like surrounding countries as well. They're like, "Yo, what's up, bro?" They were saying this to Saudi Arabia, but not in the way that I'm saying it. Obviously, they're like saying,
Yeah.
"Yo, what's up? You guys are getting hella lot close with
In
America."
Arabic.
Yeah, in Arabic, obviously. Yeah. Yo, assalamu alaikum, my brother. Because I'm from that.
Yeah,
All right.
in Arabic.
Yeah, of course. So, the surrounding countries got a little like confused. They're like, "Yo, what's up? What's happening? Why are you guys so infatuated with the Americans? Like, what's up with this like little bromance that you guys got going on?" Surrounding countries got a bit confused, because also a major problem is that the way that the Americans live is very different to the ways that the Middle East people live, like religion-wise. Because a lot of the Americans, what they did was that they smoked, they drank, they let women drive. And at that time in Saudi Arabia, people were like totally against all of that. Yet Saudi Arabia let them do that, all that stuff. So people were a bit confused at the time, let's say. And they were like, Saudi Arabia, what's going on? Why are you doing this? But obviously the Saudi Arabians didn't care, because they're making hella money off of this. And yeah.
Yeah, the Saudi Arabians were in power anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Important to notice. And actually, you get to a big rift right now, because that's still going on until this day, because a lot of Saudi Arabians to this day still don't understand why all those things are allowed, you know? Especially for foreigners. And is that where your knowledge ends, or do you know what happens
it
next?
continues. So
Alright.
I think at that point where Americans decided, or they asked Saudi Arabians if they could settle like their own little army over there, so they could protect the oil per se.
Yeah, they started exactly. So with the contractors came a lot of, American society, and then of course the military as well, to protect their American citizen.
Right.
And now also American assets like the oil. Yeah.
Right. And let's just say one of the contractors, I think it was he an architect? I'm not sure. I'm not also sure of his name, but I know that he was the father of I forget the name of the terrorist, bro.
Osama
bin Laden, yes.
Dude, yeah, he was an architect. He did architecture and oil. I think those were his two big things.
Yeah,
dude, you're jogging my memory, dude. I wasn't gonna go this deep, dude. I'm surprised you're taking this deep cut.
Hey, bro, I watched one video, bro. I watched one video,
bro. I think I know it's Vox, right?
No,
the one you watched.
No, it's not Vox.
Which one?
I don't know. Maybe I'll send you the name, and maybe we can link it in the bio later.
Yes, I mean this is good information. We're basically recapping that video, I guess.
So one of the contractors, let's say, his son was what's his name?
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. And Osama bin Laden was growing up, and he obviously had a lot of money as well, because he was the son of this contractor. And by the way, this contractor had like a buttload of like family members. He had like a lot of sons and daughters, like a ridiculous number. I can't remember. And Osama bin Laden was one of them. And he was growing up, and he saw all of this, and he saw all the Americans in his country bringing their culture into the Saudi Arabian culture. And he said, why is this going on? I don't like this. And that's basically like how a bit of conflict started arising already between... go on.
Between like his, let's say Osama bin Laden and the people that were around him. He started a small school and a small following, I think, already.
Yeah.
Back then. And there was basically this rift between some more fundamentalists or people who don't like change and didn't want to see Saudi Arabia change and change happening in Saudi Arabia or being invited in, aka the Americans, or the West in general. So that's one rift, but also one that always gets left out, interestingly enough, is the rift between Osama bin Laden and then the Saudi Arabian elites who are becoming rich off of these things, right? So if you look at the internal politics, you have like the average people, and some of them are starting to be anti-American, but that also means you're anti your own, I guess it wasn't the government back then, but kingdom, your royal family, right?
Yeah.
And all their associates. So yeah. All right, go on.
So I guess at that point is already where my knowledge kind of ends, but but also what I do know is that Osama also saw that the communists were coming, and the communists also wanted to take over. They were like slowly approaching them, and I think they wanted to take over Afghanistan. Was it?
Yeah. So the Soviet Union, the communists, the Soviet Union was very interested in Afghanistan, and this is where there's a little difference between the rest of the Middle East and Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is more for fertile land and for minerals, really important minerals, whereas the rest of the Middle East is mostly oil, especially Saudi Arabia and Iraq and so on.
Yeah.
So
but wasn't it also at some point that Osama bin Laden already wanted to like fight wars against America and wanted them out of his country, but then his country said, what are you doing? And then they like banned him or something from the country.
Yeah, they exiled him. Yeah. And this is what I know, at least. So I mean, these aren't things I've written down, but this is just off the top of my dome.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna trust you that you're right and say that that's what I remember, at least, that
right,
you got
right.
exiled.
That's also what I remember from the video that I watched. But basically, so the Soviet Russians the Soviets were coming, the communists were coming. They were going to take over Afghanistan, and Osama bin Laden saw this, and he didn't like any foreign, like he didn't want any foreign powers to like come into his country, like take over whatever they stood for, and he wanted all these foreign powers out. So he went back to Saudi Arabia and he said, "Look, I'll get my men, I'll go take over Afghanistan for you guys, and we'll get these men out of our country, or like out of our region." And America saw this, and America was like, "Yes, we like this because we also don't like the Soviets." And then they started funding the Osama bin Laden and his group, the Taliban, at that point, I think.
Which, okay, so, and this is an important part, right? So they're operating in Afghanistan against the Soviets, which is why they have support from America. But fundamentally, and at its roots, it came out of Saudi Arabia, and most of the big heads and the leaders are from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Nice.
All right. Nice.
So
it's an important detail for at least my part of the story. Let's see where you end up.
Well, this is where I guess I end off as well. It's Osama takes over Afghanistan, and that's where the video cuts off, and that's where I cut off as well. But I'm guessing Americans then later go back to Afghanistan and take over it themselves.
Well, luckily for you, Nilo, you don't need to guess. This actually worked out perfectly because this is where I started my research. Or like not research, but like writing down the things I want to say. But so we're looking at like towards so I know the Soviet mess was like somewhere in the 70s and 90s. I think in the tail end of the 90s, that's where we arrived now. And eventually, the Soviets fought hard and long against the Taliban. Or it's not even the Taliban yet. It's like the precursors to Taliban. And they're kind of allied with, or they're very allied with Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, which is the group that Osama bin Laden brought up. And they're fighting together against the Russians. And it creates like a whole political movement of being anti-intervention and anti-foreign intervention. And there's a nationalist aspect to it, of course, of it's our country, get out, we want to do with it what we want to do, why are you taking our oil and profits? There's an there's like a like Muslim fundamentalist aspect to it, so to remain Muslim and to not adopt Western views and values of like the liberation of the woman and so forth. And then the last aspect is the anti-Saudi Arabia and just general elitist like aspect, which is like, oh, they sold out our country and they're getting rich off of it, and so on, right? So what happens next is that eventually the Taliban take over all of Afghanistan, and they ruled it for a few years, until September 1st, 2001. What? No, September 11th, not September 1st. Sorry, I'm not American, but I think you know what happened then, no?
But I mean,
9/11.
Again, I digress. It's like, why do the Americans call it 9/11? Isn't it 11/9? Like, why do you guys have the month before the, or like, why do you guys
true. That's my biggest criticism out of all of this, to be fair.
Anyways, go on.
Yeah, so what happens then is, okay, so almost 3,000 Americans die, 2,996 to be precise. I mean, it was a horrible day. I think everyone can agree on that. It's a tragedy. And America says that this attack was planned and carried out from a base in Afghanistan. And it was done with Taliban help. And at the time, Osama bin Laden was very much involved in Afghanistan. But he's from a different group called Al-Qaeda. And of course, he planned it with the people closest to him. And he's from Saudi Arabia. And most of the hijackers on the plane and people involved were from Saudi Arabia. But since Saudi Arabia is the US's number one ally in that region, except for Israel, they could not do anything against Saudi Arabia, you know?
Oh yeah, but I mean, this is a bit of another irrelevant point. But they were also mad that America was helping out Israel, and they were sending Israelis weapons or something at some point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's just a big divide, let's say, in the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia now, as you can see, is the first country to sell out the Palestinians in support of Israel. So that's also like they're giving each other quite a few things, the US and Saudi Arabia. So that's why they had to, first of all, deflect attention away from Saudi Arabia, because if the American people blame this tragedy on Saudi Arabia, that would be really bad for the United States' interest. And the perfect thing to do was to just shift over to Afghanistan, because the Taliban had a very similar, let's say, media narrative as many other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, who were actually responsible. They look alike. And they were collaborating, and they were both housed in the same country. So it became a much bigger interest for America to invade Afghanistan instead. And then, it's unclear how long Osama bin Laden was actually in Afghanistan, but we'll get to that. But at least that was their excuse, right? So they went in, and the idea was, we're gonna get Taliban out of there. We're gonna kill all the Taliban. We're gonna create a new West-leaning democratic state, because it's also, America loves democracy, of course. And there's no longer going to be a safe haven for terrorists to attack America or any other Western country. You following?
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
It's making a lot of sense.
Yeah. You understand where we are, man?
Yep.
America invades. Yeah.
Yep.
From May 2nd, 2000. Oh wait, no, that's a different date. From October 7th, 2001. America invades, and they force the Taliban out of power. They create their own institutions that are supposedly democratic, and they start pushing. And those institutions, of course, they rely on a lot of America, so they have a lot of say of what is allowed and what isn't allowed in Afghanistan. And so they start pushing for things like full female liberation, so that women have the same rights as men, equal rights, and everything. Like schools for women as well, that was a big thing. Those type of values, let's say. But a big part of it is that this is highly focused around the main cities, the capitals, where there's also a lot of technological development happening, because the Taliban are not very good at that or incentivize that. And everywhere else in the rural areas, a lot of people haven't even heard of either the Taliban or the new government that's supposedly ruling over them. You know, they have no infrastructure out there. So they don't really see a change. But I digress. In any case, eventually the Americans make a new country, let's say, Afghanistan, with, of course, help of local Afghanis, but they were kind of puppet states. It's unclear how much power they had. And now these past weeks, we've seen how fast they fell. So it does feel more like a puppet state, or like a house of cards more than anything. But as I said, in the rural areas, there's no real difference. So the Taliban were easily able to hide out there and out of reach of the Afghani government or the American military. And they fought for 20 years there, outside, in the middle of nowhere.
Damn.
Now, this is embarrassing for the United States, because they spend a historic amount of money on their military.
Was it in the trillions?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And they spent almost $1 trillion. Or they gave almost $1 trillion to the Afghani military, to build up an entire military of local people there to fight the Taliban. and they spent 20 years on it, and they also, like 75% of the money that the Afghan state had didn't come from local taxes, it came from foreign aid. So the entire world was pumping money into this puppet state.
Damn, bro.
To make a point that we can create a country in the Middle East where there's where women have rights, equal rights, and all the other Western values, and there's democracy and whatever, you know.
America's messing up a lot, bro.
Yeah, but so it was like they went in to kill Osama bin Laden, and in the process they got caught up in making a whole country. And a lot of that, by the way, of having a country so that they can legally have contracts like they did in Saudi Arabia to take the oil, to instead of in Afghanistan take out the minerals. Which, if you look at it, like let's say America spent $3 trillion on Afghanistan and nation building and whatever, like they took out almost $3 trillion from what I read of natural minerals as well. So that's a huge wealth transfer from public funding of military and foreign aid into private profits of mineral extraction and sales. So that's, if you really want to get into it, that's kind of the bigger game that's going on here, right?
Yeah.
In the American politics. But yeah, so it's really weird because they never really had a clear mission. It was just overthrow the Taliban and then I guess kill the Taliban, who weren't really that involved in 9/11. It was more Al-Qaeda. Oh, but the Taliban are a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. And they kind of have a million different things going on at once. You know, they want to achieve everything at once. The one thing they did achieve is that on May 2nd, 2011, they finally caught Osama bin Laden. But they caught him in Pakistan. So he wasn't even in the same country. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Funny story
so that's a bit
on
foolish.
the side that has like basically nothing to do with this, but also
Go on.
Medzi has a little something to do with this. Do you know Steve will do it?
Yeah.
He made a video with the guy that allegedly shot Osama bin Laden.
No way, dude. I didn't see that.
He gifted the guy a car, and he also met 6ix9ine, and they went out to like a party or something that night.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the whole video, I guess.
All right, fair. That's all you wanted to say?
Yeah. The guy that killed Osama bin Laden also met 6ix9ine and Steve will do it, and got gifted a
Yeah,
car.
fair enough. Those are three really important people to meet in your life.
Of course.
So, yeah.
That's on my bucket list of people that I want to meet.
Yeah.
Number 1 is Obama. Number 2 is 6ix9ine.
Wait, why do you want to meet Obama, bro?
Why not, bro? He looks like a cool guy.
All right, fair enough. And the third person, bro, you never finish your list.
Oh, Steve will do it.
Oh, Steve will do it. Okay. No, I want to meet Ethan Klein. I want to meet Maximilian Kienzler.
Actually, yeah, you might be right.
I want to meet my dad.
Actually, you know what? You might be right. My third person might be Maximilian Kienzler, not Steve.
Yeah. Anyways, the big picture here is that 20 years of investments lost, and it was all a scam. For in those 20 years, the Americans to take out as many minerals as possible. And when I say the Americans, it's the private people, yeah, the private industry, who are really benefiting from this. And so, the end result, and I feel very, like this is a point that I want to talk about, right? The end result is that every time you bomb a village in Al-Qaeda, oh my God, every time you bomb a village in Afghanistan, and let's say you kill 3 Islamic terrorists, like 3 jihadists, 3 people of the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, you've now killed a whole village full of people, a lot of kids involved, and a lot of casualties, and you've radicalized the next 3 villages around them who know those people, and you've made them free recruits for the Taliban, because of course people are going to join the Taliban to overthrow whoever the fuck killed them, especially when they're rural and have no idea what the hell's going on with the local or international politics, for that matter. And all they know is that they were chilling with their goats in their house, in their more primitive lifestyle, and this metal bird came out the sky, drone.
Did you say with their goats?
Yeah. Don't they have goats out there?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, like, because these, what I'm trying to say, these are herding communities, really chill people that have nothing to do with anything. And then maybe there's like, they know like, oh, there's these 3 guys in the town who always go weird places and have guns and talk to like weird people. But you're not really involved in the whole circle of there's America, there's the Afghani government, and we need women's rights, and we need like schools, and we need a like they don't know what the fuck a democracy is. Like the state never even got to them, they were not covered by the state.
It's fine.
No
I also don't know what a democracy is.
Yeah, but that's out of ignorance. you got your education, you just didn't listen.
By the way, I'm kidding for anyone listening. I do know what a democracy
yeah.
is.
But you can imagine these people who have nothing to do with anything, when you drop a bomb on their head and kill everyone they know in their family, their kids, their wife, you know. And school children who go to school and one day the class is half empty because half of them died the previous day. Or you're going to a hospital with your kid who got injured from one of the bombs, and then Obama, and this is a true story, bombs that hospital. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe like I don't want Obama on top of my list.
Yeah, but like you're constantly radicalizing people that really had nothing to do with this against you. And that's what the Taliban was really good at tapping into, and that's why it took 20 years, because in the course of those 20 years, the Taliban only grew and became more and more powerful. And then what happened recently is America and Joe Biden specifically was like, okay, we understand, we can't do this. The Taliban's going to win. The Afghani government is so corrupt. We've put so much money into this and we get nothing in return. We're leaving. Fuck it, we're out. We got, Osama bin Laden's been dead for 10 years and he wasn't even in the country. He was in Pakistan. Like, if the Afghani people really want democracy and all these things we've offered them, they will take the 3 trillion that we gave them for the military and defend it. Yeah? That was kind of the idea.
But isn't it also kind of funny how, like, because I'm assuming that since Osama bin Laden led the Taliban, he already had like a lot of money.
Yeah, of course. The Taliban had a lot of money, and they get a lot of private donations, but yeah, I mean, they just had a lot of money. I'm not quite sure where from, actually. That's a good question. But I know they get a lot of, like, money from donations.
Osama bin Laden's dad was hella rich because he was one of the people at the beginning of when America came, and America needed all these like infrastructures built. That's where his dad came in.
I know that one of the biggest donators to these type of projects, more extremist Muslim fundamentalist projects and fighters, is Saudi Arabia. Comes from Saudi Arabia, and that makes sense because Saudi Arabia is one of the most fundamentalist countries out there when it comes to Islam. So I can understand if a lot of people in Saudi Arabia, even though, you know, publicly they have to be in good on faith with the Americans and they sell each other out, that, like, you know, privately with their own money, they're out there supporting ISIS, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and whoever the fuck, you know, because they do value that. Or, yeah, a lot of people value that in Saudi Arabia. And you can still see that to this day. I mean, women just got the right to drive a few years ago, I think, like 2016 or something.
I still can't drive, bro.
Yeah, but that's not because you don't have the right to. I also can't drive. My right to drive has actually been taken away, though. So that's not my fault.
That was God. That was God's fault, bro.
Yeah. For those of you who don't get the joke, I'm epileptic. So there you go. Anyways, dude. My main point is they went in to avenge 3,000 people who died in a tragedy in America on 9/11. And the whole idea was to prevent 3,000 people, Americans, to remember dying again, right? You would think that's the thing.
Yeah.
But the math equation doesn't work out because after 20 years and trillions spent on this, you had 2,500 private American soldiers die, so contractors. Almost 4,000 normal American soldiers, public soldiers, die. So you have 1,000 more American soldiers dying than you had civilians dying in 9/11. You have another 1,200 about Allied troops, so that's European troops, who we had nothing to do with this, and somehow we also send our kids to die there.
But wasn't it just because we were just allied with America?
Yeah, we do whatever America does, basically. You had 66,000 die from the Afghani military. So over 20 years, the new generations who are now caught in this war between the Taliban and the Americans and have to choose sides, who some of them enlisted in the Afghani military that was sponsored by America, and 66,000 of them died just to surrender 2 weeks ago and give over Kabul and the rest of the country for free. You had 51,000 of Taliban and others die, so like Taliban and their allies die. And this is a number that I don't think is realistic at all, but I got all these numbers from AP because I know they're a trusted source, Associated Press. But 51,000 Afghani civilians as well, which I think is really conservative. I've heard as much as like 500,000. So like, it's really, it's up to interpretation. I would say at least I would expect this number to be at least twice as high if it's being realistic. And a lot of those civilian casualties were from American bombs, and Western bombs. And so it's no joke that all these people had to die to stop another potential 3,000, and that it was only once that happened. You know, a terrorist attack of that capacity or of that size.
Bro, all I'm saying is that
I don't know.
all we need to do, all Americans need to do, is give me 1 cup of coffee and like a knife, and Afghanistan's all ours, bro.
Yeah, you're going back. You're gonna take all the Taliban out.
Yeah, all I need is a cup of coffee and a knife.
A cup of. I mean, look, you managed to make a pretty. No, we can't joke, dude. What the fuck am I doing? I just listed casualties, bro, and I was gonna go run with this joke and bring it somewhere, but I don't feel like it.
No, don't. Not in 2021, bro. We barely made it. We can't get cancelled right now.
Yeah. No, but okay. I think I don't know. What do you think of this point, man? Because I try to bring this up often. It's a bit of an original point, I'd say, because I don't see very often in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Because they get like so involved in this and that happened, but when I like try to zoom out, I'm like, okay, so you try to avoid 3,000 people dying again and avenging 3,000 people, and in that process you end up killing like hundreds of thousands. So does that resonate with you at all?
Nope.
Or no?
Nope.
How so? Would you like to explain?
Like, I mean, I just don't want anyone dead. Anyone dead is like already bad. Even if like they're like the bad guys or the good guys, you know, even though we don't. Yeah. It's like deaths or casualties is just like not necessary. I'm a very peaceful guy, if you will.
I think a lot of people are peaceful. I think a lot of people have your stance, you know.
Yeah.
And they get dragged into this like geopolitical bullshit full of like different parties, and you don't kind of get lost in it, and then you're like, whatever, let's just do it, you know. You end up supporting it somehow. But yeah, man, that's basically the whole story wrapped up. And now I have 2 interviews, and they'll get into exactly what happened recently, so how the Taliban was able to win recently, and the situation there. And yeah, there's not much else to say other than that. I mean, a few things have happened since those interviews. There was a bombing in Kabul airport from IS. So this is like this is why this story is so crazy. So you have ISIS, which is against the Taliban, who previously were collaborating, because ISIS is like one of the biggest terrorist groups in Afghanistan, or the most successful, let's say. But the Taliban never cared that they were blowing themselves up in the capital until they took it over, you know.
This part I actually never heard, but wasn't there also like a bunch of suicide bombings going on recently?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those are the explosions. But yeah, and that's from ISIS. So it's a ISL, I think.
Okay.
It's like an Afghanistan wing of ISIS. And yeah, they blew up 2 bombs in Kabul, I think yesterday or the day before. And yeah, that's another like crazy perspective to. It's like even these extremist groups have beef with each other, you know, and disagree on things.
Dude, you know what's scary, right?
What's scary, dude?
Do you remember when September 11 happened in 2001?
No, but
it happened,
okay.
Right? And it's gonna be 20 years this year. On September 11,
yeah,
it's gonna be 2 decades. But this year, the Taliban have taken over Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Do you reckon there's a bit of foreshadowing going on?
I really don't think the Taliban have much interest in terrorizing America, man. I really think they just kind of want their own country. But that doesn't mean that they won't tolerate other people doing it, you know. Like, again, last time it was Al-Qaeda that did 9/11, so...
But do you reckon something terrible is going to happen on that date?
I think horrible things are going to happen in general.
In the future?
I don't know if it's on that date. And I don't know if it's going to be like a 9/11 type thing. And unfortunately, for a lot of the extremist Muslim world, the main target has become France and no longer America. Which is a big problem for us who are here in Europe.
Because we're so close.
Yeah. But yeah, France is really hated now from that side.
But I mean, to be fair... all right, but...
To be fair, everyone hates the French, so it makes sense.
It's like if everyone's gonna like go to war against France, I'm like, yeah, fuck it, man, might as well join in.
Yeah, and I mean, if I had to, okay, like, look, if I'm a strategist and I have an army in my hands, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I just won my first big victory, significant victory. Mm-hmm. Okay, I need a quick, cheap second one, you know, while my troops are still recovering, just something to keep myself...
real quick.
Yeah.
Because like, you know that even the Europeans are gonna ally with you just to take over France, especially the Italians.
Yeah. Exactly, and France is always surrendered. So like, how hard can it be? You know?
Yeah.
yeah. You don't know that joke, dude?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the French surrendering. Unlike the Italians who just went on to the wrong side, but whatever.
No, we just switch sides. Like,
Yeah,
so
you
we
guys
never
just
lose.
switch whichever way the wind blows, bro.
So we never lose. We stay winning, bro.
That's actually such an Italian thing, though. Like, I feel that. I mean, maybe not. Maybe I don't feel it, but I can see it happening. Let's say.
Right. Do you want to go to the interviews real quick?
Yeah, so I got 2 interviews, one with a diplomat and one with an Afghani person. Enjoy them. There's no break in between. It's just one to the other, and you can use the timestamps, of course, to navigate that. And yeah, I want to first of all give a shout out to both of them. I'm really happy for them. I'm really happy that they offer their time and were able to be, to come on record. It was really interesting, and especially the second one, because I don't often hear a lot from people in Afghanistan. I know from being a Bolivian that the coverage of international press around Bolivia is so different from what Bolivians actually think and feel. And I know it's really annoying when the press never goes out and actually asks a Bolivian person, because like they're out there in the streets and they will tell you a lot more than the media does.
Yeah, and these interviews were like especially very eye opening to me, for me as well.
Yeah. Do you know a lot of people from Afghanistan? I don't know, because you're Bangladeshi. Maybe
I feel
you have
like
closer.
I
You
feel
could
like
be closer than I am. You know,
I feel like my family might know a couple of people here and there,
but not you. But you don't really.
No.
Or what?
No, I don't personally know.
Yeah. So yeah, roll the interviews, bro. Yeah, thank you for joining me. And if you would like just to give a little short introduction about yourself and your connection to Afghanistan.
Well, my first and closest connection to Afghanistan is that I'm Afghan myself, and I'm a first-generation refugee. My parents were political refugees, so growing up, I had always this awareness about this politics in general, but also the situation in Afghanistan. I knew my background, and as I grew up, I just wanted to know more about it. So I started studying European studies. I did my bachelor in European studies, and somehow I did my thesis about Afghan emancipation, woman emancipation movements in the 1970s. And I started writing my thesis about that. So that sort of, I would say, grew my interest for Afghanistan even further. And now I'm doing international relations at the VU. And I'm also writing this thesis about Afghanistan. But to be honest, now the situation is sort of unfolding. I might have to make a switch in how I want to approach my thesis, because this is like an even bigger topic.
I can imagine it must be a confusing time to start a thesis on Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very confusing.
Okay, no, but just to summarize a bit, so like you have, of course, a personal connection. So you're from or a descendant from Afghanistan at least, and you also have like let's say an intellectual connection to it as well. You study it and you've written about it and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Somehow I don't like to think that I'm like an intellectual on this topic, but
no, but an academic.
I think I'm a bit aware of the situation. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Well, yeah. So I already pre-sent some of the questions. So of course, if there's some that you don't want to answer or whatever, you can just skip those. But otherwise, we'll start with the first one, which is how was the Taliban able to win so quickly, and how did they have the power to overthrow the Afghani military, which was being built up for such a long time by the Americans and the West? And yeah, how did it happen?
A very good question, and I'm sure a lot of people ask themselves, like, how could the Taliban, take over in such a short time? Nobody had expected. Of course, there was like an imminent threat of Taliban in the regions, like especially provincial areas, but nobody thought that it would take over in a matter of days. So there are, like, of course, multiple factors, but I think the first factor is that military and police were very low on ammunition and food was scarce. And some of them were not even paid for 5 months. So the morale was at this point very low. And a lot of people, security force, Afghan security force, they didn't understand what they were fighting for. So, and when the Taliban took advantage of this, of the lack of morale, and they convinced the village elders to talk to the security forces to send them a message: you surrender or you die. So the Taliban were able to achieve this victory without basically firing any bullets. And this had not only a demoralizing effect in areas where the Taliban didn't have taken over, but also as more regions were taken over, the Taliban, the army basically surrendered quicker and quicker. And that's when you have like this domino effect that basically it's a sort of a snowball effect. Yeah. So
Right.
words. And I also think like that combined with the lack of American air support, the Afghan security forces were just very weak. They heavily relied on these forces to make winning this war even possible, and there basically wasn't any air support.
Okay, so it was like the sudden abandonment of the American air support and I guess overall military help, but it was also like more of a moral battle more than anything, like people being convinced to drop their weapons before even fighting, like from the military.
I do think like I'm Afghan myself. I'm very proud. I don't like to think that our security forces don't have any morale, but I have to say, when you have like fear, which is a very big factor, knowing that the Taliban have rifles, are way stronger, have like a monopoly on violence, and they're supporting allies supporting them with ammunition. When the Afghan army is literally left with nothing, the international community has abandoned them. That also plays a very big factor, I believe. And there were even videos online. I'm talking about like specific cases where the security forces were basically confused. There was a Afghan military guy, who was like, I don't want to give out my rifle. I want to fight for my country. And when that's when you're sort of instructed to not to, it's very confusing. And I think a lot of people, especially me and my surrounding, I sometimes like to think that I live in an Afghan diaspora bubble here. A lot of people, they just cannot comprehend what is happening because we thought fight.
Yeah, would you say panic is a good word to describe when like the takeover started happening? Like that people in this confusion and panic just kind of ended up giving the power over to the Taliban and abandoning their cause, let's say.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, then the next question would be, who are the allies of the Taliban? You mentioned already a little bit that they had more supply of ammunition and such from their allies, where the Afghani military was really missing that part. So who were these people supplying, let's say, or these parties supplying weapons to the Taliban? And
Okay, so of course the biggest ally is Pakistan, the Pakistani government. Will basically deny this. I'm 100% sure they will have denied this, but they're a very big ally of the Taliban. The Pakistan intelligence services provided the Taliban with weapons, munition, expertise, and basically facilitated and keep facilitating the Taliban. There are even Pakistani jihadi warriors fighting an Afghan war. They fight. They joined the Taliban during the occupation. Pakistani jihadi warriors. I'm like, what? This is our country. Afghanistan is for the Afghans. Why are Pakistani warriors fighting our war? It's just it doesn't make sense.
So would you say Pakistan is like the number one ally, the closest ally?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, they have, of course, interest in the region. So I
mean, when you say Pakistan, I of course think of like maybe there's a strong religious sense or connection between those two groups, or an interpretation at least. I don't know if that's accurate, but I don't know if you can go into that a bit.
I understand your question, and understand that a lot of people like to bring in religion into the.
It's a bit sensitive, so I don't want to overstep. But
I understand the question. I think a lot of people think if I were like not Afghan and didn't know anything about the situation, I would assume maybe the same. But it's important to know that it's not a religious conflict. It's all about the geopolitical location, and vast amount of untapped resources, minerals, and the fertile ground of fertile soil that Afghanistan has, that it is of big interest for a lot of nations. And you asked me before, what are the allies? Of course, Pakistan. But as we see this situation unfolding, we also see that China has been opening up to doing business with the Taliban. They recognize them as an important, powerful military player, and reasons for it is, of course, to exert influence, but also to maybe profit from the vast amount of natural resources that Afghan is rich of.
Okay, so you would say right now, at least, the main focus or motivator of this conflict is natural resources and land and power, right?
Yeah. I would also like to point out that the Taliban, you talked about the religious factor. Of course, there's a small religious factor involved, and that is the Taliban are extremist followers of Wahhabism, and they have like madrasas where they take literally refugee children, indoctrinate them with this extremist ideology. And when those children grow up, they go and fight for that. And that's basically what has happened for the past 20 years and even before that. So these are traumatized children that get indoctrinated and go there on and fight wars. They're basically brainwashed.
Okay, so there's a lot of brainwashing, but then would you say it's more like a tool that they use for propaganda and ideology to kind of create a sense of importance?
For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. That was a really nice answer, I must say. But then if we can get a little bit more into, let's say, the Afghani government and the 20 years that they were in power, and how they got to this point. Were they ever popular? Did they have the support of the people? Or were the Taliban in the end more popular? What can you tell me about this scenario?
Well, I think that the Ghani at this point, the Kabul government was not popular at all. And the approval rates, I think the turnover for the last elections was lower than 20%, and that was in 2019. So basically, you have to understand that there is a big difference between the cities, and as Kabul in particular, and the remote regions. So you have the remote regions that you're not really aware of what the government is doing. They're not really aware of what is happening, and they are actually sort of apathic. They don't really care. And when the Taliban also took over, they were like, I really don't see the difference. Because they were not, because of corruption, they didn't see any improvement in their daily lives. So of course that was, I think that also is an important fact to understand, why there is no turnout, why there.
Would you say that the abandonment of the Afghani government, in terms of rural people, and the fact that they did not see any influence or benefit of their governance, was that a risk that the Taliban was able to take a hold of? Because it's almost like a vacuum, right? When there's nobody present, that you can just roll in and nobody, as you said, notices a difference.
Yeah, of course, the Taliban takeover was imminent, and the Kabul government was in no position to put up a fight. So they took advantage of that. And of course, there were many warning signs. The Kabul government and Taliban peace talks were literally going nowhere. And the Taliban had already captured or exerted influence. Already captured many remote districts surrounding the provincial cities over capitals. I also think the biggest problem is that there's big corruption, and that didn't help the situation at all. It caused the Afghan army to look bigger on paper, and they when they didn't have the sufficient funds, they needed to pay the salary, buy food, ammunition. So there's this big misconception that, they were like investing so much into the Afghan army and why didn't enough food, they were well equipped. That was not the case. It was there were no sufficient funds. So,
right. So a lot of the money that were supposed to go to the military to, let's say, beef them up or arm them, ended up just being lost in corruption along the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned an interesting thing there that I personally have been thinking about is that the peace talks were going nowhere, and that everyone kind of already knew this, or at least I had a sense that they were not going to go anywhere. So then what was the purpose? Because both sides were kind of like faithfully participating. So is there like what's the strategy behind that from the Taliban's point of view and also from the Afghani point of view? The government's point of view.
From the Afghani government point, I think well, let me put it this way. So what happened is that during the peace talks, the United States and the Afghani government and the Taliban were involved, but it's as soon as it happened that the peace talks were going nowhere, the United States tried to resume these negotiations sort of with the Taliban alone and sort of, isolate any of the Kabul government, and they were not an important factor anymore. And I think that's basically what happened. And I really have to think it's true. So right. Don't put me on it.
No problem. But okay, I mean, we can move on to something else first, maybe. Let's go back to the popularity thing, because you were talking about the rural areas and I kind of cut you off a little bit. But how was it then in the cities? Were they also starting to lose support in the cities, or was that still like a stronghold of support for the Afghani government?
Yes, I think as I said before, once the smaller regions were occupied, of the remote regions were occupied, slowly they started to surrender quicker.
Kind of like a dominoes effect or something.
Exactly. That's what happened. And you have to understand that the Afghan population, years of war have created fractions, camps along ethnic, religious, and also cultural lines. And this has made it easier for foreign powers to intervene, of course. I mean, an example I would like to draw is when the Soviets had invaded Afghanistan. That's when almost all Afghans have united, and Mujahideen basically fought together the Afghans. And once they retreated or left, that's when they turned their rifles against each other, and that's when basically I would say chaos erupted. And Taliban as a strong force, they managed to take hold in Kabul back then, and that's still the case. We're still there are still different, fractions and camps. And I think it's important for Afghans to understand that it's the whole principle of conquering and a region is divide and conquer, and they have to unite and then fight with I would say the enemy.
Right. Okay. So in the end they also lost popularity even in the cities, and they were very demoralized, as we discussed already.
Of course. And let's not forget, that's a very important point, and I forgot to mention this before, but the US during negotiating the peace deal, they have released 5,500 Taliban prisoners. Were all very vital, and that was basically the outcome of the peace deal, and I just still cannot grasp how they were able to do this. So
right, I mean, that's just like a giveaway of soldiers, or I guess a lot of years of work of captivating Taliban fighters just to release them again. And
exactly.
Did they get anything like in return at all? Because now the Taliban has taken over. So was there anything given in return for something that big?
I'm really not sure what they got in return, to be honest. Right. I mean, look at the evacuation plan. Is there even a plan? I don't know. The evacuation we can just say it has been failed terribly. All these people, all these poor Afghans that have assisted foreign powers during the last 20 years that I have been there, they have been profiting, and they have assisted them with putting their lives at risk. They have assisted the foreign powers, and now they're literally abandoned. There's no evacuation. I mean, they could have handled it like France handled it. They basically evacuated their people as of April, and I mean, I don't have to tell you what's happening at Kabul airport. It's devastating to see people being so desperate, trying to escape because they know the Taliban is very violent. They're probably I'm afraid for the worst. I'm afraid for execution. They're definitely gonna implement the Sharia law, and there's gonna be execution, cutting off limbs. It's gonna be really terrible. So I understand these people's desperation.
Yeah, because something we've been hearing quite a lot recently from the Taliban is that, or at least their spokesperson, is that they want to try and be more modern, let's say, and integrate women's rights and everything. And I think I can already guess that you're gonna call that a bluff. And absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big bluff. I mean, coming from somebody that executed people in broad daylight, on a square, it's just a big bluff. I don't think we can trust these people at all. And also, you have to understand the motive behind it. There are funds that they cannot access. They're frozen, and they understand that they rely on a majority of their they're very dependent financially on foreign aid. And if all these people go and sanction the Taliban, it's going to become also a very problematic situation for them. So they understand they have to, put up their best
image, yeah,
exactly, up there. But we're definitely going to see that after the 31st of August, when all the foreign powers have that, we're definitely going to see it develop differently. At least my expectation.
So more than anything, it's just a PR stunt to get a hold of these funds and try to, at least in the eyes of the international community, kind of seem more developed than before. But in the end, it's the same old.
I wish they were moderate. I hope so, but that's not the case. There are already executions happening. There are already beatings. Children, young girls and women are taken from their homes, from their family homes, to put up and marry Taliban warriors. I don't know, they promised them, a child bride. That's already happening. So how can we say that the Taliban have changed and become moderate? I don't think we can say it now. So
it's only words for now. The actions speak differently. All right. Well, then I only have a last question, and maybe it's a bit of a heavy one, but what do you see in the future for Afghanistan? Where do you think this is heading in like the next 5-10 years?
It's a very difficult question.
Yeah.
I find it very hard to answer that because I cannot look into the future. I wish, of course, the best for my country, but given the circumstances, I think it's only gonna get worse before it gets better for the Afghans. And it's just heartbreaking to see the nation that you come from, that your parents grew up, be like collapse. And we came here 20 years ago, and to see that there are people in that same situation as my family was in like 20 years ago, and we were the ones that could get away, and to see these people, I'm not sure what they're gonna face right now.
Okay.
And, I don't like to make statements on this because
just to press a little bit, but can we kind of assume the Taliban is not going anywhere for the time being? Like they have a pretty strong hold of Afghanistan, right? From my understanding, at least.
Yeah, they have definitely a strong hold, and that's why it's very important that everybody, understands what's happening in Afghanistan and raise their voices for the injustice that I think the Western external powers have created the situation, and to have to raise
Right.
voices against these kinds of involvement, because 20 years ago there were also peace negotiations. They could have been literally in the same situation, but 20 years ago,
Mm,
and
mm.
did not accept that peace deal. So why did they accept it now, and why is
Right.
it
Right.
here in this situation 20 years later?
So yeah, it's simply not good enough. Yeah, from the Western involvement point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah, they caused a lot of trouble, I would say. And on the way out, yeah, everything kind of collapsed. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other comments that you would like to to share, or anything else
Yes.
you'd like to say?
Well, I don't know how big the range is of the people listening to this, but if you are based in the Netherlands, you can join the protests. Try to look up online when the protests are. Like this Saturday, the 28th of August, there's a protest at Dam Square, and
Yeah.
if you are against human rights abuses, if you feel like every human being deserves zeg maar menswaardig bestaan.
Yeah, I don't speak Dutch,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
human rights, let's say,
Like this,
or freedom.
if you feel for these people as a
Right,
human,
right.
just come there and support the protests, and be the voice for the people that cannot be heard anymore.
Yeah.
So we urge people to come and become activists.
Yes, for sure. I think we have quite a few Dutch listeners. So if you're out there in Amsterdam, please join on Saturday. And yeah,
And if you're not in the Netherlands, not based
then
there, like
in your own
all
country, yeah.
around the world. I mean, I have to say, I have to compliment the Afghan diaspora on this. They're very organized, and they're not afraid to make themselves be heard. So you can definitely find a protest somewhere and join, and also sign petition. Make sure you share information and
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
perfect, and I think that's a great end to the interview. All right. So, good morning, Abi. Good morning, listeners. It's 11 a.m. In Haarlem here in the Netherlands. And yeah, man, we've been talking a lot about Afghanistan recently. And yeah, you're a bit of a diplomat, a bit of
Well, I'm not a diplomat, but I surely studied some things.
Yeah, you're heading in that direction, as I understand
I
it.
hope. Well, it depends on the COVID, how it goes, man.
Yeah.
Let's see.
All right, but you definitely know a lot about this topic. And
I do know about international relations and its theories, and especially I'm interested in how geographical positions of countries play with each other. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Abi is one of my flatmates. Not for long, but yeah, he's leaving soon. But yeah, we've known each other for about a year, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've had a few nice political discussions, I would say.
Yeah.
In the kitchen and everything.
That's true, man. It was interesting. Sometimes it is interesting to have a different view of one topic, and it just increases your knowledge. Even for me, when I talk with you, like because you have different views, I can understand what a different mindset can be, and how you can.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say the same. I mean, growing up, I always talked about politics with all my friends, like every day. And then when I came here, I kind of missed that a lot. But you were one of the people who I could always talk politics with, so that was nice.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I feel honored.
Yeah, so this is a very trusted source of mine. I'll just put it that way. And yeah, we wanted to talk a bit about Afghanistan, get more of a, let's say, professional point of view, or a higher standard point of view. And also really look into the side of China and their involvement into this. And that's something I don't know as much about. I'm more focused on the American side.
Yes.
And yeah, so the first question I would have is just if you can tell me a little bit about the Taliban. Who do you see them as, and who are their main allies and enemies in the region, let's say?
Okay. But do you want me to introduce first a bit to the listeners, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. You can give some context.
You gave a really good and honest introduction, but I'm Abhijit, and I come from India.
Yeah.
And I did my master's here in University of Amsterdam, which was in international relations, and I have been talking with many international people here, listening to their views. And,
right. I have to intervene because you're kind of downplaying your record here. So you have 3 masters, right?
Well,
the latest one is international relations.
Yes, but I think that is like relevant here. That's why I said. But thank you. And but so my interest in international relation is growing each and every day. How things are evolving, maybe related to Corona crisis or now Afghanistan crisis, and how countries react to each other's policies, how they want to cooperate or don't want to cooperate. So these things kind of excite me to learn more about. And man, Afghanistan. Well, to get into that, before that, I would like to share a story of mine.
Sure.
So I met this guy. I was living in Amsterdam in Diemen, and he was my flatmate, a really honest and hardworking guy.
Yeah.
He was from Afghanistan, of course. He was a pediatrician, and he was doing some courses here. Really, in Dutch you say gastvrij, guest-friendly person, because that's how culture of Afghanistan is. They want to welcome people. They want to...
I mean, every time I went to the Middle East, it was like incredible to witness like how welcoming people are.
Exactly.
Like, just into your home, like a loose connection. They somehow know you, like because you know somebody who knows somebody. And all of a sudden they invite you and your family into their home. Like
there you go.
Yeah.
You just feel homely.
Yeah.
And so because of some reasons, because of the work that he did, I mean, he was in contact with USA and he was helping them. He had to ask for asylum in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And after pretty rough days, it was a tough time for him. He got asylum. Now, I called him a few days ago and I asked him, hey, how's it going with you? And so he told me that his family was here, but they were feeling homesick, so they had to go back. And what I'm trying to pose here is he was trying to make his family safe,
right?
Because even though that's his home, Afghanistan is his home, he had to send his family back, but they are not safe there. And I could feel it in his voice, and I felt really concerned about him. So that's why I was like, okay, I talked with you. Let's do this. Let's try to understand what is this.
Yeah, I know you have like let's say a social circle or like a personal connection almost.
Yes, almost. And you can feel it in his voice that he was, I mean, taking asylum was not enough, was already enough for him. And now he has to think about his family all the way again.
No, I mean, being a refugee and just moving countries in general, especially if it's like the further away the countries are, the harder it gets. So like, I know it can be really challenging for a family, especially, I moved around because my parents had job opportunities and a nice future, let's say. If you're moving for like asylum, then I can imagine that's really hard and traumatizing.
So, so this is the background, and that's why I felt concerned about Afghanistan. So, now, moving to your question.
Yeah, sure, man.
That who are the main allies and enemies of Taliban and previous Afghani governments? Well, in international relations, matters, there are no permanent enemies or permanent friends.
Right.
Only interests are permanent. So when you say that who are the main allies of the previous Afghani government, it was, as a realist point of view, I would say that it was always dependent on interests.
Right.
So Afghani government has relations with Pakistan. Afghani government had relations with US, with India, and but in that sense, it was all based on what are your interests.
Right. So, and what are these interests then? Let's say the US. What was the main interest of the US backing up the government?
Well, the US government's interest, I mean, even I think our listeners already know that they were there to fight a war against terrorism. Well, at least that's what they projected.
Right.
But I don't know the insights of what was the or I don't want to get into conspiracy theories because then it becomes really complex.
But so your point is more so that there are no permanent allies.
No.
But it was all based on interest.
Well, let's see. Let's chart this out. the USA took help of the Afghani government. They actually created the government and the institution in such a way that it was helpful for them. Right. And the Afghani government was, of course, cooperating with US to fight against Taliban.
Right.
But where are they now?
Right.
So the interest, as soon as the interest vanished, they're like, yeah, bye.
Right.
We're pulling out.
So the US, they're not allies, let's say.
Only interests are permanent.
Yeah, it's only the interest. So as soon as I think America, they realized they could not win the war, and right now every country is kind of in the world. This is what I see at least, reevaluating what is important, what's not important, and where can we spend our resources. You know.
There you go.
Because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And all the treasuries are depleted across the world, especially in the US. So. I think that they saw that they could not win that war.
That's true.
And that the corruption and everything from the Afghani government was too much.
Yeah, I mean that's how they pointed it out. Like, because you guys are corrupt, we are. But who is saying that? I'm sorry for American listeners, but who is saying that American government is not at all corrupt?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's
gold standard of corruption.
Yeah, they are not gold standard of corruption.
And the American military too, actually. That's part of the problem, right? With all this money that went to the American military and then to Afghanistan, like a lot of it got lost. Yeah. And that's what your friend was also explaining to me.
Yeah. So that's true. Yeah. So that is the thing, that interests are permanent. And even though you talk about Taliban, allies of Taliban, well, as I can see in the news and I can see how the things are developing, they are trying to build up allies now. Because Taliban was always considered as a terrorist organization. Even I think Angela explained it well, that the people in Afghanistan, they are not so much inclined to Taliban. They also oppose it.
But she had an interesting point. But yeah, the listeners will hear it later. But it was more. She said a lot of it was like the abandonment of the Afghani government for a lot of the rural people. Kind of allowed the Taliban to come in, take control. And for a lot of people, nothing really changed. You know, they were still living their same lives, except now it was the Taliban. And from what I understand, in a lot of rural areas, the Taliban were just always more relevant than the government, because the government never came out there. And the Taliban, that's kind of where they had their original power, you know?
Yeah. And this is the typical lack of power thing.
Yeah.
That we will also talk more about in next questions. But yeah, that's the thing. Taliban had this big void of power in rural areas, and that's how they tried to get this attention and control them. So now, because there is big void in the whole country, now they are trying to build up allies.
Okay.
There was a news a few days ago that, because and this is a desperate thing, you know. They are saying that we will uphold women's rights, and which basically means that they are trying to attract attention of the people who and convince them that Taliban is not as bad as it was.
Right.
So they are now building up allies. And even they are in formal process. I mean, I don't know. The Taliban was never democratic.
Right.
The core of Taliban was never based on democratic principles. But now they want to establish democratic relations with the leaders, and they want to get legitimacy. But so they are building up allies. That's
how genuine do you think these actions are and these words?
That's what I'm saying. So, for example, I don't think that it will affect much to Taliban if they are not democratic inside Afghanistan.
Okay.
But this gesture is just to avoid the international pressure.
Right.
That is building up now. That countries want a democratic government to be in power. And by doing this, they can, and by having a major share in the democratic institution, Taliban can just say that, hey, we are democratic. See, we have leaders.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, there's also the aspect of, like, first of all, that funds are locked up from the previous government that Taliban want. And now they're in this crucial point where they, America could always reinvade.
Yeah.
You never know what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of people think that these are just empty promises, especially like the women's rights issue.
Mm-hmm.
and that they're just putting on a face now to get allies, to get access to these funds, and to avoid any further confrontation with like outside outside players, right?
Yeah.
So what do you say to that? Like, do you, once again, like, are they really genuine, or do you think it's gonna end up like just washing away, and there won't be any women's rights or democracy?
Okay, to answer this question, I would like to take you a bit away from Afghanistan and in Myanmar.
Okay.
You see, the government of Myanmar was not less than terrorizing. It was terrorizing its own people.
Yeah.
Not government. I'm sorry, listeners. It was the military.
The military,
Myanmar. And what happened there is, in the end, Aung San Suu Kyi won elections, but the military was still in power.
Okay.
In a sense, they controlled finance ministry.
Yeah.
They control major share of the financial resources, and because of and they also had this thing written in the constitution, according to which they cannot be overpowered. And you see the result now. Aung San Suu Kyi is once again in jail, and the military has taken over.
Right.
So as long as these principles, these things that they talk about, they negotiate, is not on the paper, we cannot say if it's legitimate or not.
Right. Because
if it is legitimate, they will say like, okay, let's make up a constitution, and we will agree to the constitution, and then you have a government.
Okay, so you can pretend basically a long way before it becomes reality, let's say. And you can always like, unless there's any like real transfer of power or like real legitimate change, then it's always just
as long as it is not in the agreed constitution of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
According to me, it is not possible to predict if it is legitimate or not.
Okay.
Only the time will tell us how the future looks like.
Okay. And are you hopeful that in time it will tell a good story, or not really?
Well, I'm an optimistic person, I would say, and I want to hope that Afghanistan gets back on its feet, more powerful than before. At the same time, adheres to the principles of let's say democracy here.
Yeah, that would be
equal
nice,
rights for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Less of still a political answer, but less of a political answer than than my previous interview. But all right. Now, moving into what actually happened, which is what a lot of people have been talking about recently on the news, at least. The Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. They beat the military, which was something like 3 times their size, at least on paper. And how were they able to do it? And how did it happen so quickly? Because even the people who predicted that it would happen said it would take 6 months, but it happened in like a week, and Kabul fell in a few hours. So, what can you tell me about this?
Well, so whatever my information is, it is based upon the news that comes out,
right?
And a few of the professors that I sometimes discuss to, or maybe listen to their lectures, and that's what my source is. What actually happened, I am not aware of that, but I can guess what would have happened.
Right.
And I would say that there was a big void of power when USA said that they are going out. And in this situation, you saw that Taliban was advancing towards the capital.
Can I? Okay, look, sorry, I'm really sorry to intervene.
No problem.
You mentioned earlier that the power that America had in that region, and I can't remember your exact words, but I wanted to ask this like specifically. Would you say that America was the main legitimizer, the main let's say show of force, show of power in Afghanistan?
Sure. Yeah? Yes. I think so. Basically, when you see American military, you see these big bombers and big airplanes and tanks and Humvees and soldiers really with guns.
Effective
and
to portray power. I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the show of power. And of course they also used it. It was not just the picture. They were using
it. Yeah.
They were using it. So it was a big deterrence for Taliban to remain secluded in those rural areas.
So you have the disappearance of 2 key factors. You have one, the disappearance of the military aid, direct, like let's say the use of all these weapons.
Yes.
which was really important in defeating the Taliban.
Yeah.
Or fighting back against the Taliban. And then you at the same time have the symbolic gesture of retreating and withdrawing.
So it was official that they are running away.
And then they lost a lot of their like power image.
Yeah, so, yeah. And let's cut US some slack here. It was not just US withdrawal that was responsible, right?
It was the West as well.
Also like the government of Afghanistan. Yeah. Even the gesture of we are standing still and we are not going to go outside the country. If the leadership just says that, it gives some kind of fighting spirit to their people and their military also. But as the forces were coming next to it, you can see that the leadership was just they taking charter flights to safe countries.
Yeah, I even heard that the prime minister or the president escaped with like suitcases of cash.
There you go. That's true. There you go.
Yeah.
And what if you understand what military is? Military is a super hierarchical organization. And if there is no proper chain of command, the people on the ground, they are clueless what to do.
Yeah.
Yes, they have guns. Yes, they can fight back. But without a nice, good leadership, they are useless. So what I'm guessing here is they didn't run away as their leaders. They are still there, but they are dormant. And they are waiting for someone to come up so that they will again ready to defeat.
You think fighting will continue?
I think because you see, there are like within the days, as opposition forces are coming up.
Yeah.
And they are trying to oppose Taliban.
Yeah, I've read about that.
Yes, and if I'm not wrong, the vice president of Afghanistan vowed that he will stand still and he will fight back.
He has a little stronghold in a region. Yeah.
There you go. So what I think is, yes, the numbers were more of the Afghani military, but they are dormant.
And as you said, like a lot of the leadership just fled. And there wasn't much coordination there.
Exactly.
As opposed to the Taliban, who have been extremely coordinated and planned out, is what I've heard at least.
Yeah, because their leadership was intact. And so, I mean, why did USA take out Osama bin Laden? Because he was the leader. Yeah. If the leadership is gone, the institution falls apart. If it's an hierarchical institution, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So to conclude, why Taliban was able to win over Afghani military so quickly was two reasons. The gesture of US, which boosted morale of Talibani forces that their main enemy is running away. And they were enthusiastic to get to the capital. First thing, so the withdrawal of USA boosted their morale. And second thing, the leadership of Afghanistan, when it fled, this was a really big blow to the morale of their forces, to the morale of Afghan
I would
military.
say like momentum was really on the Taliban side.
Yes,
they were building a lot of momentum. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, so they just got lucky, I would say.
Yeah, it was good timing as well because they were conquering a lot of regions, like rural regions and around the provincial capitals.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like America was doubling down on pulling out. And at the same time, the Afghani military was getting more and more nervous.
Yeah.
So I think it was, a lot of things coinciding. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. If, as you say, like, let's say that the dormant troops become active again.
Yeah.
I hope not, but I don't know what to say, honestly.
Well, in that sense, I would say hope they become active again if they want to save their country. If they don't, so I'm just assuming here a lot of things, but at the same time, if they want their people to be safe, they have to fight back at this point because USA is not there.
It's the last. Would you say it's the last chance, or?
Well, what is last chance and what happens after that?
Last chance in the short term. Of course, in the long term, in 10, 20 years, you can always start a new revolution. But let's say right now, I think would be the way I see it is like the last chance in this set, at least of history, the last chance to fight back.
I didn't get your question correctly, but the last chance I wouldn't say it's a last chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the longer you wait, the more power the Taliban will have in Afghanistan, I'm guessing. Or
That's what my fear is. If they are able to get some legitimacy through their contacts or the contacts that they want to build with international powers as well as with the democratic institutions of Afghanistan, if this happens, then they have a stronghold.
Okay.
But it again depends how much this is in the constitution, like how they are writing it down in the constitution and they want to adhere to it. This also depends. But Taliban can get a stronghold if they get legitimacy from international powers and the democratic institutions.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I also imagine that if the previous Afghani government does not fight back and the previous military does not fight back, that eventually Taliban seeks more legitimacy. I think the international community eventually will start to abandon the Afghani government and move towards the Taliban, right? That's at least what we see from China already, like legitimizing the Taliban. And the US was already doing this, of course, before the takeover. But
the thing is, we cannot exactly compare internal situations with what are happening internationally. If you go internationally, I would again stick to my previous thing that interests are permanent.
Right.
So, we'll get to the China, I think, in next questions.
But I imagine that the more legitimate or the more power that the Taliban has in the region and in the country, the more the interests, end up at their feet. Because they're the ones who will control a lot of those interests.
That's true.
And the Afghani government becomes more or less and less relevant.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It can happen. If you consider it that way, yes. Because even in Myanmar, you can see that international powers are opposing what is happening in Myanmar. They were vocal about it, but now it's really silent. What's happening there, no one knows.
Yeah, because the patience of the international community is quite short.
It's a short attention cycle, and then you have something else is happening, and then
Yeah. All right. Well, really nice answer so far. I'm enjoying this interview, I would say.
Nice.
But okay. Let's talk about China then. So, how are they involved in this? Because this is what I don't know that much about.
Okay. So, when we talk about China, it's an international power desperate to show that they are becoming the next hegemon.
Okay.
So that answers shortly what China wants to do.
That's like the big picture answer.
The really big picture answer. But if we dig in deeply, I think there are three important factors. First is fear of losing money.
Okay.
China is really, what you can say, excited about its One Belt, One Road policy.
Yeah, which is just for those who might not know, it's like a return to the Silk Road or something like.
Yeah. So basically, it is to increase the presence of China in the region. And this also aligns to the aspirations of becoming a global hegemon. But this is a small trial, let's say a pilot project they want to focus on.
But they have the idea is to create like a big trading route filled with Chinese infrastructure.
Yes.
From China all the way through Afghanistan, the Middle East, and then up to Greece and even Italy, I think.
Yeah.
That's where it ends,
Yeah, so it's like building up a trade route as well as building up industrial stations, big industrial stations.
And at the same time, political power.
It comes. So money, political power comes with money. If you have money already invested and if they are dependent on China, their politicians are dependent on China, and then the region is dependent on China. So that's the main crux behind it. I was searching how much, what are the immediate interests of China and the One Belt, One Road policy in that region. And it is interesting to know that just in Pakistan, in 2020, Chinese investment amounted to $62 billion.
Okay.
And
that's a lot.
that's a lot. That's a lot. And if there is disturbance in So if you have invested, let's say your safe is in this room, and next room there is fire going on.
Yeah.
Well, you will be concerned about your safe, and you will also try to douse the fire.
Yeah,
room.
I would run and try to put out the fire.
So that's what they are doing. They are like, our investment is there, and let's. So this is fear of losing money.
Right.
First thing. The second thing is balance of power. As I said, China is really desperate to show USA that they are the next hegemon, and they can go and control, or let's say they can douse the fire without help of USA.
Like very inspired by the USA itself, I would say. Like
yeah.
Being able to show that you can just go into any situation and be relevant and kind of put pressure in certain ways. So
just to give our listeners an example, Vietnam. Think about Vietnam, what they did. Oh, you guys are fighting, we will jump in, we will help you, help the investments of France and all, and then we will teach Vietnam a lesson. There you go. I mean, this is like a hegemonic status. They want to, hey, you're really good, and let's go and douse the fire.
Yeah.
That's what China wants to show. And the third, and really crucial, maybe not many people know that, but you must know that, not must, but you can know that that in Uyghur region of China, China is actually going. So China has imprisoned many Muslims there, the Uyghur Muslims, and they are in inhuman conditions. So I think I have also heard people talking about it, that this shaking hands with Taliban means that whatever happens in Uyghur, Taliban looks away. So mutual interests, I would say, again.
Yeah, and then you have like a mutual recognition, but also like an agreement to look away from each other's less, let's say, less, I don't know how to describe it, like more negative aspects or more criticized aspects. For example, China has the problem with the Uyghur Muslims and the persecution, while of course the Taliban have a really bad stigma in the international community.
Yes.
And are also already like doing beheadings and everything. So executions. So I can imagine that there's kind of an agreement there that we won't look at your dirty side and you don't look at
our dirty side. Yeah, okay. That's it. That's what would have happened in the closed room. With Taliban and China in it. So these are the three main interests. First, balance of power. They want to show US that they are next hegemon now. Second, fear of losing money. And third one is, you look away, we'll look away. That's
all right. And this fear of losing money, do you think the China will do business directly with the Taliban now, or is that still something that is too far out there to see?
Doing business with Taliban,
like the same way that they were invested in Pakistan and so forth. Like, do you think they're going to continue this now that it's the Taliban, or will they be a little more hesitant?
Well, everyone is kind of watching how the things develop there.
Right, it's too early to tell.
It's too early to tell. Yes, Taliban was getting power, and they saw that Taliban is going to the capital now. So they sent one of their persons and shook hands with Taliban. They are desperate to save their money, man. So they are also not like 100% saying that, yes, we will stay with Taliban, whatever happens in Afghanistan. No, they will support the power in Afghanistan. Whoever comes to the power, it will be an ally of China.
Okay. So they're not really interested or involved in like the local politics of Afghanistan, but whoever ends up ruling there, they'll shake hands with them anyways.
I wouldn't say that they are not interested in local politics. They are interested and they are watching it closely, but they will shake hands with the person who is in power.
They don't necessarily, they won't pick and choose and like shove one of them.
No, it's like, no, I don't think so, no.
Okay, all right. So what does, you explained quite a bit about China now.
Yeah.
Now if we look over again to, let's say the USA, what do you think they have to gain from this situation? Like why? I mean, there's already conspiracy theories, of course, and I won't get into them, but do you think that this was deliberate, like retreating and allowing the Taliban to take over? Is there something for them to gain from the situation, or is it all just negative for them?
Well, I would say that the politicians of US and the leadership, the presidents of US were getting pressure from the people, the citizens of USA, because literally the term body bag effect means that if the citizens of a country see that their soldiers, their beloved soldiers, are coming back in body bags, their resentment to it and their what you can say, they're angry. They become angry towards the government. And they are less prone to vote, or less prone to vote for the president who is responsible for this one.
Okay.
So
and
there is. Yeah.
Just to give some context, like I think yesterday a new poll came out, or 2 days ago actually, and it was overwhelming support for the withdrawal.
There you go.
And that's despite like the American media that I've seen every day, like going out there and bashing Biden and the withdrawal. I mean, in the media it's almost unanimous that this is chaotic and horrible, and the people even under those conditions are still saying that they overwhelmingly support the retreat or the withdrawal. So
exactly. So. I mean, imagine yourself, one of your friend is going to fight in Afghanistan, really close friend of yours, but comes back maybe, I don't know.
Let's say injured or dead.
Not in one piece, or, like something like that. It's really horrible even to imagine, and this thing happened to the people of US.
And it's even more extreme than that, because not only your friend, but then the friend's child, like, the next generation have also, like, there's been fathers and sons who have both died in Afghanistan,
There you go, yes.
20
really
years apart.
Horrible.
So, yeah.
In that sense, USA definitely has to gain something from that.
Yeah,
Not
so
gain
politically,
something, but
internally.
Also, on human grounds, they needed some break, man. And this is what their break will be.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, I think that USA has to lose a lot. In international community, because, well, USA still now is considered as the hegemon. It is considered as the power which operates on liberal principles, the power which you can go to mediate your internal conflicts, or not internal but inter-country conflicts sometimes. But now, looking at when you look at people falling from a plane, and you compare this to USA and their hegemonic status, well, I don't think it projects USA.
Yeah, it's
in a well.
Let's say the imagery has been really strong, and I think that influences a lot of people, right?
Yes, it did influence, but starting from, I think, if I'm correct, starting from the previous president,
on the American side, or the
American side, the previous president, Donald Trump.
Sorry.
No problem. Well, you see, we quickly forget things here. So Donald Trump also was responsible for deteriorating, according to me, the international image of US. And and this thing that like the selfish withdrawal from Afghanistan, just saying no to things and like desperately withdrawing without considering what would happen to the people of Afghanistan, is not going to help USA to gain an international image.
Yeah, and speaking of China, I saw like they came out with a comment. I don't remember what it was, but I saw it on BBC, which I thought was. I mean, there's many criticism of China, but they are really good at their propaganda and their way of phrasing it. Like they said, this should be a stark warning to Taiwan, that allies of America get abandoned easily, and after 20 years they could not even defeat the Taliban. And I was thinking, like, so if China ever goes into Taiwan, I don't think the Americans, like, if they cannot win against the Taliban, what can they do against China? So in that sense of imagery, I think China really took this advantage of the situation and kind of were really had some strong propaganda.
I can see that they were quick enough to warn Taiwan that, see, you cannot be dependent on US.
And they have a point, because this is these are allies of the US, and they lost. And that means something,
that means something, but at the same time, it's a completely different discussion. If you look at the position of Taiwan and South China Sea and what China is doing in that one and how it will affect USA is a completely different picture.
You think it's in what way though? Is it are the stakes higher in the South China Sea, or is it were the stakes higher in Afghanistan?
So China is always known for its expansionist policies. They always want to increase boundaries of their country.
Yeah.
And if this continues, this also disturbs the region. So the local, what you can say, that the balance of power is disturbed, and USA doesn't want it, especially going in favor of China. So it's not like what happened in Afghanistan will exactly happen in Taiwan. No. Because what happens to Taiwan is not just USA, but also other countries are allies of Taiwan, and there are many countries, including India, who would see that China doesn't go beyond its limits.
Once again, like the interests are very much aligned in that region against China.
Interests are permanent.
Yeah. Right, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the big difference between those two cases.
Yeah. It's a different game, but if it boils down to just USA support, well, what Taiwan can see now is that they cannot 100% rely on US.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of my point. It's just that imagery is becoming stronger. I mean,
Yeah.
we already saw some of it when the US abandoned the Kurds, like back in the how long ago was it again?
The US abandoned the what?
The Kurds, I think, right?
Kurdish people.
Yeah, they had the allies, and
In Syria?
Yeah, in Syria, and they were fighting. They were allied to fight against ISIS, and then eventually they just abandoned them, and Turkey went in, and it was a big mess.
Okay.
But I remember back then, like there was already a lot of talk of like the weakening of the American military and how they just abandoned their allies.
Yeah.
And now it's like this. Of course, the story is much bigger, but now it's like becoming more official. The idea of the Americans abandoning their allies.
Yeah.
So,
what I honestly think here is USA thought that, well, we are hegemon, we can just go and step in. But before doing that, they did not think about the consequences of doing this.
Yeah.
That they are actually disrupting the power dynamics of the region. And once they get out, the region will always be in power conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict of power. So, yeah, I think... Well, I think also that USA would have learned its lesson from Vietnam, but they did not.
But that's one thing we learn from history is that we never learn from history, you know.
and I suspect that there goes something more deeper than just an hegemonic status and being the big brother.
I mean, that's where I would say is the corruption and the military complex comes in.
My point. But because there is no data to talk about it, it will be always regarded as a conspiracy theory, and people will just throw it.
I don't know. It used to be conspiracy theory. I don't know if it's so much conspiracy theory anymore.
Okay.
But it's definitely it's pure politics and speculation, unfortunately, because you know there's not even precise numbers and figures on the military spending in America. Like Joe Biden ordered an audit of the Pentagon spending, so just to figure out where does the money go. Like this is something that you would think there's an overview of, but there really is not. And it cost $6 million just to do the audit, and it was never completed properly. You know.
Yeah.
So that's how far out and unleashed, let's say, that is, and because of that, you don't have statistics or not many facts, as you said.
So all these things that we discuss, which are not based on facts, will be always like tagged as a conspiracy theory, and but you are less prone to focus on it.
Yeah, I would say, just to be clear, like from my political speculation, it's clear to me that a lot of this has to do with money and the military, you know, spending in cycles.
Okay.
And the more conflict there is, the more there is to spend on. And each time someone gets, each time there's a check written out to the American military, there's a private person getting money. You know, for that. So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Let's not get stuck in this stretch,
because this is a slippery slope.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It can just go. The conspiracy theories are not.
Let's not stay here.
Yeah.
No, but
I mean, that's what our listeners would like to listen to because it's spicy. But
I'll do that another day because I talk a lot about this.
There you go. He promises you guys.
Yeah. But okay, so I have like 2 questions left.
Yeah.
First one, I don't know how relevant this is, and this is more like a genuine question from me.
Okay.
Was Russia involved in this conflict? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Because I feel like at least before they were often involved in these type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And this time I haven't heard much from Russia. And I want to know what's happening with them.
Mm-hmm. So I have 2 approaches to this. First one is Russia was involved.
Okay.
In Afghanistan a lot.
Yeah.
And just to counter Russia, USA, I don't know, again, guys, conspiracy theory, I don't know. But USA sends in rocket launchers and guns to fight, to the tribal people of Afghanistan to fight against Russia, to get Russia outside.
And this is kind of like the pre-Taliban or the...
This is genesis of Taliban, my brother. And so yes, Russia was involved. But now, like a few days ago, there was a big meeting of the generals of Russian military.
Yeah.
And one journalist went to one of the guys and asked, like, "Hey, are you paying attention to what's happening in Taliban?" And he was military general and a diplomat, I think.
Yeah.
He said that, we are paying a close attention to what's happening, and there will be consequences. That's what he said.
Oh God.
That I mean, so I think Russia is also flexing muscles.
Okay.
And it's just the time. That's what I said. Like, I don't think that it will lead to immediate peace or a settlement. It's a stormy situation, and I think I'm fearful enough to say that it will continue for some time.
So Russia's not really involved right now, or in the last few years? Or?
I according to the knowledge I have, I didn't see a direct involvement of Russia.
But they have interest in the region because they were involved before.
Yeah.
In the, let's say, not prehistoric, but like recent historic times.
Yes.
In the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think after so this was a Cold War period. I'm if I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that was one of the Cold Wars between the US and Russia was happening in that region.
Yeah. A proxy war situation where they want to fight war in a third country.
But they might join the battlefield again, is what you're saying. Or at least what they were hinting at, I guess.
They were hinting at it, and this hint is towards USA as well as towards China and towards Taliban, that they don't have a free hand.
Yeah.
That there is another bear sitting in the corner of the room and watching what's happening. So that is the involvement of Russia, I think. But I'm not exactly sure how they are on the ground, how they are acting. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you about what you see in the future for Afghanistan. But first, if there's anything left you want to say about the Chinese aspect at all, or...
No, I think I kind of summarized it in main 3 points.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then, that last question then. What does the future look like for Afghanistan? What do you see, let's say, the near future or maybe even long-term future?
So, it's really difficult to predict something.
Right.
But one can just talk about fears of his mind. And what fears me is to see that the big power has withdrawn,
right,
and the ground has cleared for other powers to fight with each other. And maybe that was the fear of Afghani people when they were desperately trying to run behind planes, that the region was unstable, but it will be more unstable for the future. And the near future, I think it will be a bit troublesome. The only hope, and it's, I don't know because I'm an optimistic person or what, but the only hope is Taliban turns down its extremist pose and tries to have democratic elections. So if they want to stay in power, if they want to stay in power for a longer time and also want to get the support of Afghani people, they have to lean more towards democracy.
Right.
If this happens, then you can see some stability. Otherwise,
but the problem is the incentives are not quite there, right? Because now they're right now in their peak.
Yeah.
And they just took over and they have control.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in any democratic process, they would have to give up some of the control, right?
Yeah.
Some of the power.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they will never get
not some.
all
Democracy means the power rests to the people, not to the gun.
Yeah,
not to the people with the gun.
That's true.
So, and which is
really but
difficult
that's
thing
like,
to happen.
But the thing is, like, that sort of democracy is almost unheard of, you know, like there's always power play involved and other types of power, you know.
Yeah.
But all right, so and you're still hopeful that this could work, that they might become more democratic, or not really?
Well, the time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see, man.
We'll see. All right.
Maybe in a year when we do another podcast, we'll see. Like, hey, we discussed.
When I invite
this.
you back, yeah.
Yes.
We'll see.
I would like to. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I often like doing predictions, but I don't know. I know quite a bit about this, but I always still feel like I don't know enough about it because there's so many angles and possibilities, both internally and from external factors, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to predict.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird. I heard a lot of people who I find really smart in terms of American politics thinking and talking about that America might go back in, but Joe Biden keeps doubling down that they're going to retreat, so I really don't know.
Well, in that sense, what is with America that they want to go back in?
Like they would go back in to drive the Taliban out again, like in pure shame and guilt, but I don't think so.
I have another perspective. Yesterday, USA was saying that they want to have some number of USA, like a few number of people, USA soldiers on the ground. So maybe that will act as a emergency military base or something like that.
Yeah.
And Taliban is saying like, no, you said you promised complete withdrawal. You have to completely withdraw.
Which I kind of agree with. But
so maybe this is a desperate or maybe a naive try from US's side to have some presence in the region.
Some presence, yeah.
It's not like they are completely absent. They have, I think, presence in some bases of Pakistan also.
I mean, I'm sure they have many bases in that region, like
but
surrounding. But inside of Afghanistan, they really want them out, right?
Yeah. So maybe this can happen, but coming back once again and do the same thing, well, let's see.
It seems silly to me, but you never know.
You never know, man. That's USA.
Yeah. All right, man. Any other comments or something you want to say on the record?
No. No. I think we covered all the points, and it was really interesting to talk about Afghanistan. Finally, we were discussing about it, and we did it.
We did it, great. The full thing. All right. Well, I thank you so much for joining, man.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Check out the podcast once it comes out.
Great. You also guys subscribe to Matt's channel, and if you have any comments, any feedback, just let him know so that he can improve.
Yeah, sure.
Damn, Mattis. Those were quite the interviews, eh?
Yeah, man. No, as I said, man, I'm really happy that they let me talk to them, and I was excited but also nervous to talk to them, so I hope it wasn't too awkward, but I tried my best.
No, so, from what I heard, they were like genuinely very nice, and everyone was being quite genuine, and I have to say a special thank you to you, who like went out
to me.
You went out of your way to like interview these people, and I'm like not even in Amsterdam right now.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know what happened, man. I woke up one day after partying and I had motivation, and then I happened to talk to Abhi, and he's like, you know what you should do to be on current topics, talk about Afghanistan. And I was like, yeah, because he knew I talked about Palestine and such.
No, you know what it is? It's the world calling out to us, you know? They're like, we need to report this stuff. We need to become better people.
I would also, I don't know if it's an apology, but I would just like to share a statement that like, I'm not the best for this topic because it's not like something I really focus on. Of course, I know a bit about it because I'm interested in politics overall. And the news, but like it's not the same level at all of understanding of like my understanding of Palestine and all that.
Obviously, everything that we do say, take it with a grain of salt, and don't just
and do your own research. This can be like a little bit eye-opening and see different points of view, but don't take anything we say here as hard fact.
And obviously, if there's something that we said that was incorrect, please do leave a comment down below. Let us know what we said that was wrong. Or like educate us on things that you know, or continue commenting, saying things that might be eye-opening to other people that are reading the comments and are also watching the video. And if you want, keep sharing this video with your friends and your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, if there's like, I don't know, an article or something that clearly disproves one of the things we said or shows another viewpoint, then you can also link it down below. And I think I'll personally be linking like in the description, maybe like 1 or 2 videos, maybe the one that you saw at the beginning, because I remember that one and it was I remember seeing that. Or I think we saw the same one because it was all like the facts I remember from that video.
It was just one guy, no?
He was saying, yeah. Oh, is it? I forgot the channel, but I think I know which one you're talking about.
He's like a history buff and
yeah. I know. All right, yeah. So I'll try to link that, and also a link to donate to Afghani refugees. I've seen a few floating around. There was also protests here in Amsterdam yesterday. I didn't go because I was at work, but yeah, there's definitely, I would say, look into that because there's a lot of refugees right now. We all saw the images, so yeah.
Yeah. No, but
anything else, bro? You want to say?
No, nothing else. I feel
you
like
can just jump in, instead of making fun of me for being a little quiet.
Yeah,
today,
no. I was gonna say a lot more things, but I feel like any other way would be wrong, and I think we should just end it here, and we should not repeat the same mistake as we did last time.
I have a lot to talk about. Yeah, because I have a lot to talk about. I feel like last time was a bit insensitive coming in with the Eminem thing. It's because we never do podcasts on one sole topic, but I think this one's better because we have some interviews involved and such. So
it's focused.
Yeah, we'll just leave
like
it at
based.
that. Yeah, it's based as fuck, dude.
All right, let's just leave it at that. And Daily Kelvin, shout out if you made it this far.
Yeah, and sorry I keep saying it, but really thank you for the 2 people I interviewed. Abi and Angela, I believe is her name. I forgot already, but yeah.
Thank you very much.
I hope you guys enjoyed this too. I said I would send it to them, so maybe they're watching it.
Let's hope. And if you guys are, thank you very much for the interviews.
Hey, you guys can leave a comment down below as well if you want,
Yeah, let's
just shout yourselves out.
Let's start a little discussion in the comments. Why not?
Why not? All right, man. It's been real, man.
Peace out.
Nice seeing you again, man.
Peace. One by one, the ways whisper help, we're dying. Witnesses will not find the peace among the clueless. Listening to what we sing, the word is not something you can change.